This is the magicwordpodcast.com.
Good morning. This is Scott Wells for the magicwordpodcast.com. Well, I say good morning because, well, it is, and here I am again at Southwest Airlines and Hobby Airport in Houston, waiting my magic carpet to whisk me off to, this time, to Baltimore, Maryland, where we'll be attending Poe's Magic Conference. I believe they've been holding this for just a few short years, but have just recently renamed this to Poe's Magic Conference because it is about bizarre mentalism, seance, storytelling, and that kind of a thing, and perhaps whatever title they'd had before might have turned off some, or maybe was misrepresentative of the kind of convention this actually is. And in particular, it really does have a lot to do with your presentation and the stories you tell and how that you will make your magic stronger through that storytelling. And no better place, obviously, than in Baltimore, and to call it Poe because this is going to be after Edgar Allan Poe. In fact, this is Thursday, as we're recording this then right now, here on September the 18th of 2022, and we are going to be going tonight to the gravesite of Edgar Allan Poe. That's a good way of kicking off the convention. I mean, how many other conventions do that? Okay, yeah, I know Abbott's get-together does have the graveyard tour, a little bit different, have a lot more people to see there, but this is quite different then as well. And Vince Wilson's the guy who puts this thing together, along with several other people, the efforts of a lot, and I want to thank them very much for doing it. We'll be talking with Vince, I'm sure, along with a lot of other people over these next few days as we attend the convention. I'm looking forward to it. Again, first time I've attended this because it is a relatively new convention. I've attended some other things like this, like the Mindvention and some other kinds of things, but this will be a unique experience then for me. So come along with me on this great journey and see what kind of fun we have. And of course, we can't get started unless we have some Dunkin' Donuts to accompany my trip. And by this time, I think it's kind of obvious as to what kind I'm going to have, but one of my go-to, obviously, is always, chocolate. And instead of an eclair, I got a Boston cream. Kind of makes sense. I'm not going to Boston, I'm going to Baltimore, so they didn't have Baltimore cream. I would have tried that. Maybe they should have something like that in Baltimore. They should have in their Dunkin' Donuts maybe a Baltimore cream. Anyhow, and then a little bit of hot coffee, and this baby is hot, I tell you. Good. Hot black coffee. Well, hope you guys will enjoy this coming episode, and episodes, I should say plural, because we'll be combining actually this first day and day one and day two, because not too much going on except for the gravesite thing then tonight and registration, and then tomorrow full day, so we'll report on that, and then Saturday will be a full day and Sunday another one, and so we'll be posting those. Next week will be something special. We'll get to that a little bit later down the road, but we got a convention to attend, and I'm excited. I hope you are too. Come along. Let's jump aboard the magic carpet and take a ride. Scotty out. We have arrived in Baltimore, and we are now at the Lord Baltimore Hotel, which is an historical hotel, and it's a pretty darn cool place. Now, this is Thursday night, and really not too much happening convention-wise. In fact, we're not going to be registering until tomorrow morning, but we are going to get a real treat. And this is the reason that I came in early, was to not only get a little tour of the Lord Baltimore Hotel and a little history of some of the I guess, mysterious and haunted happenings that have happened here at the hotel over the years, and people who have died here, etc. But also going to take a walk over to where we can see and take some photos of the Edgar Allan Poe's first resting site. They had moved him later, but anyhow, that will be then a little bit later, and we are first going to hear from Vince Wilson, who is the organizer of Poe's Magic Conference here, and he's going to give us just a little tour of the hotel. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing with him here and record the whole conversation or presentation, but let you hear just the opening snippet of that. So here is Vince Wilson.
So tonight we're going to learn a little bit about the history of the Lord Baltimore Hotel, and then we're going to walk down to Edgar Allan Poe's gravesite, where we're going to give him an imaginary toast. What do you think? We're going to bring alcohol? Is it against the law in Baltimore to walk down the streets? What are you guys thinking? All right. You guys are storytelling magicians. You're supposed to use your imagination to project the idea that you have alcohol in your hands. That's right. That's why so many of you have drinking problems, I know. All right. But tonight, we're going to be hearing some of the stories of the ghostly happenings at the Lord Baltimore Hotel. We're going to walk around a little bit, all right? But for the most part, we're going to go to the lobby, and then we're going to go down to the grave site. It's about 2 blocks from here at the corner of Green and Fayette Street. But first, the stories of the Lord Baltimore. Lord Baltimore was built in 1928.
As we prepare to go into the first day of the convention for Poe's Magic Conference, I'm here with an organizer. I say the head organizer. You've probably got a lot of people who are working with you, but here he is, Vince Wilson. Hey, Vince.
Hey, Scott. It's great to have you back again. Or actually, this is your first time at the conference, but we've had a few interviews before.
We have talked on many occasions, but tell me about the conference. I think I know you planned this in the past, and then it changed the names, or what was the deal?
Yeah, so here's what happened. Originally, this was a strictly bizarre magic conference, and it was called Bizarre Hauntings, which made more sense when we were in Gettysburg. But when we moved to Baltimore for a better location here at this elegant historic hotel, the Lord Baltimore Hotel.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's right. It made less sense because the Bizarre Hauntings kind of made sense in that place, but here it kind of confused people to some degree with the name. People thought it was like a haunted house conference or something like that.
Right.
And since we are Poe's Magic Theater, in the town where Edgar Allan Poe died, it made a lot of sense to rebrand it Poe's Magic Conference, but also change it ever so slightly that mainstream magicians who not necessarily weren't into the spooky, the bizarre, or the creepy, would also want to come to this conference. That's why we rebranded the world's most unique magic conference. Now, let's be clear, the only lectures, the only performers, the only speakers and workshop developers that we'll have here will always be theatrical, bizarre, or storytelling specific. Like we could have Peter Samuelson, who's very theatrical, but we could also have Jeff McBride, who skips around a little bit of everything. And Kent Knepper, who does mentalism, and Christopher Taylor, who also does mentalism, but also bizarre magic.
And Paul Prater, who does bizarre.
And Paul Prater, who does bizarre. All these fantastic, wonderful magicians who delve into all sorts of different types of magic are welcome here. And even if you're not into the creepy, the mysterious, or spooky, you can still learn from them by learning how to be different, unique, and standing out from the crowd. Because, as you know, as a professional magician yourself, it's hard to stand out when there's 10,000 magicians charging $100 for a show. Always remember, everyone, you get what you pay for.
Good point. Now, going back a bit, you mentioned about this beginning in Gettysburg. What year was that? And
that was 2018. It was the first conference. We'd actually wanted to happen a year earlier. But when we were planning the first conference a year earlier, around that time, Eugene Berger unfortunately passed away before that.
And he was going to be one of your...
He was going to be one of the initial speakers. I was talking to Eugene about that, and obviously that didn't come to pass. And we ended up taking a break with the planning, with that information, among other things, and we rescheduled and retooled it for 2018 in Gettysburg.
Who were some of the performers you had back then?
We had Karina Fenton, otherwise known as Sylvia Scepter, from England. We had Paul Houdini there. We had Joe Ferrantino and Joseph Daniels, Vlad, David Parr, and I couldn't remember the entire list on top of my head.
That's okay. I just want to get a kind of a sampling because that shows the kind of people that you started off with a vision and you're maintaining that same vision with the storytellers and bizarre kind of people here with this as well. So it is such a unique and a niche within a niche within a niche type of a market. I would think, well, it's not that you're going to run out of people necessarily, but I think again it's a small group of professional performers who do what they do.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Yeah, they specialize, and I think the better way of defining bizarre, because everyone thinks of it as horror specific, is think of it as unique, specific. Think about it as being like bizarre magicians always strive to be original and different. But it could take classic bits of magic, add a little narrative structure to it, and now it's a storytelling moment of wonder. That applies even to card tricks or magic. Most people delve into or only think of as junk drawer magic or something for kids. Like you turn an imp bottle becomes not a giveaway at a toy distributor, but an actual moment of wonder involving genies and spirits trapped inside, and they'll take the time to age them and tie strings to them and put occult markings on them.
Exactly. One of the things I hope to perform while I'm here at the open forum that you're going to be having at the what's it called, the Club Black Cat Cafe?
The Black Cat Lounge.
Black Cat Lounge. I've got something in which is basically an invisible deck, and also, but it's creepy with the hand. And anyhow, the thing that I've got then with it that actually tells a story. I think the important thing, as you're saying, is that you have renamed this Poe, because that says it all. There's the perfect storyteller. He was. Who today is Stephen King has picked up that mantle, but Poe was the one before, and I love those kinds of stories. And it may be macabre, but it's something people will remember, and it gets serious. And people, it's important that you tie a good message to a trick that otherwise could be trivial.
Exactly. It's funny how many magicians starting off don't understand why they're still hobbyists and not professionals. And one of the things that amplified that for me was a post that was made when I first announced Poe's Magic's rebranding, the conference, right? A magician had posted as a reply, what does Poe have to do with magic? And I understand where he was coming from, because there's those stories where there's a magician or a juggler or something like that in any of Poe's stories. But they're missing the point.
Completely.
It's story, it's wonder, it's mystery. Magic is mystery. Above everything else, magic is mystery. It's what's going to happen next. Even if the most basic card trick, the most basic illusion or effect, something that comes in a kid's collection.
And the best magic is created in your mind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. I got a lot of compliments last night on the Ghost Tour, and there wasn't a single magic trick in the entire show.
It was fabulous.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
that was a great job.
Yeah, so the trick is to, in this case, is to be captivating. To be engaging, to emote the story you're trying to present to the audience, so they understand each individual feeling in that moment. And that's difficult for a lot of performers to do, but it's not impossible for anyone.
No, and I think again that's a point of this conference, of trying to be aware that's how you should be presenting your magic, and also trying to get some ideas and tips for some things that you can put into your own presentation. Exactly.
We have such an amazing lineup just today. You caught me just as I was just putting the schedule up, and it gets just today. This is not even the whole weekend. Just today we have a development workshop. We have this great opening ceremony. We have Kenton Nepper, McBride doing the keynote lecture. Meadow Perry doing her amazing bubble magic. She's getting amazing reviews for that. Joseph Daniels is going to be doing a fantastic lecture on developing magic tonight at 9 o'clock, and that is only the first day. Yeah.
We got some surprises also. By the way, this is going to be going up then soon, so people are still going to be able to come in on Saturday and Sunday, and I'm assuming that at this point you might be selling one-day...
there's one-day passes. If there's one-day passes, if you still want to sign up and come there, you can buy one-day passes at Poe's Magic Conference, POES, magicconference.com. And sign up today and come Saturday or Sunday or today. Just come in, and if you are, just come in and we'll work something out if you come in late.
And also you got some surprise guests who are going to be showing up too.
Yeah, we know we have Larry Haas coming in. I'm not sure about the others, so I don't want to announce that yet. Right. But there's they are in their particular brand of the mystery arts, the most famous in the world.
Yes.
All right. You
Well
agree
put.
with that? Yes.
I agree with that.
Okay. So I think we could
Say no more. Hush, hush, wink, wink.
Yeah, that's right. So they're hoping they were regular hangouts here at Pose.
Yeah.
They used to come here a lot to just hang out and spend time with us. But they might be here on Sunday, but I'm not going to say names until I get confirmation they'll be here.
Well, I know you're getting ready to get things registered, and people are going to be lining up, and you got some things to do. I'm not going to bother you anymore until the end of the conference to kind of see a wrap to see how you think things went.
Oh, it's so far so good. It's been fantastic. All right.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Vince,
Thanks,
for
Scott.
hosting this. So for the Magic Word Podcast, that was Vince Wilson, Scotty out.
All right, everyone, welcome to Pose Magic Conference 2022. Wow, it has been quite a journey to get here. And we want this to be a stress-free conference. All right, so if things come over, we just push a little bit back. You're magicians. Most of you specialize in bizarre magic, so you should be used to going late into the night. All right? Going late into the night, that's normal. Like, how many of us have done a midnight seance? Right? How many of us have performed at a carnival with a haunted attraction where we've done magic? Or worked at a haunted location like the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis? All right? Or the Lord Baltimore Hotel? Or the Congress Hotel in Chicago? What's a cool haunted place in Las Vegas?
Zach Bagans Haunted Museum.
Zach Bacon's Haunted Museum. Ooh, there you go. Places like that. What's a cool haunted place where you live, Terry?
El Rio Street in San Juan.
That's right. Yep. All around the country, there's amazing haunted places that you can perform at. And the best time to do them is at night. So the schedule pushes a little bit more into the evening. Don't stress over it. You're doing your job. That's right. I'm passing the blame on you, basically. And that brings us up to this year with our keynote speaker this year. And if everyone, please give a round of applause. You might have heard of him, Jeff McBride. So change is important. We all must embrace change and be comfortable with it. The nature of stories change throughout time. As I was just talking over here, the idea of ghosts and spirits have evolved over the centuries and decades. The idea of what we believe in, what we understand, also changes and evolves. And I would like to present to you our new logo.
We're going to do this in a special way.
That's right, yes.
Okay, so you're going to hold it in
Okay.
this position. Now, we're going to do this collectively. We're going to summon the energy by counting backwards to 5, and then we will manifest. We'll step forward here.
Okay.
Because we have to step forward here. Collectively, we're going to manifest ectoplasm. Are you with me?
Yes.
First ectoplasmic manifestation of the entire Pose magic event. It's kind of like throwing out the first baseball. You with me?
Yes.
So we're going to do this together. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah! Would approve.
That's right. Yes, he would. Yes. The magic of storytelling, everyone. This is why this is the most unique magic conference in the world. And you are the future of magic and storytelling and theater. Thank you, Jeff.
Wonderful.
Thanks very much.
Well, before the conference begins, I thought it'd be kind of interesting to get a perspective of a couple of registrants to see what their thoughts are, why you guys are here, and where you're from, that kind of a thing. First of all, Reed. Good morning, Reed.
Hey, hi, everybody.
That way you recognize his name. And then Gary.
Hey, this is Gary.
There we go. So tell me, since I'm closer right here next to you than Gary, where are you from, by the way?
I'm from Montgomery County, Maryland. It's about 35 minutes or so.
Okay, so it's kind of handy for you to drive up here, not so far like some people come across the country or from Canada to get here.
Yep, simple drive.
Yep. And how about you then, Reed?
I'm from Upper Montgomery County,
Okay.
which is about a 50-minute drive.
Did you guys ever go then to the other one that was the Gettysburg event?
This is actually the first conference in 25 years I've gone to as an attendee and not working a show.
Really? As far as being a magician or doing anything?
Computer conferences.
Okay.
And I have to say it's the first time I'm actually looking forward to going to all the sessions and workshops.
Is it because that it is a storytelling, bizarre, seance kind of a thing, or what is it that attracted you here?
It corresponds to my interest, and it's not my job.
Okay, yeah, it has nothing to do with computers or anything like that, so it's outside of that. So do you perform from time to time, I guess, with the kind of storytelling things?
I do. I haven't performed in years, but I used to do some of the performance. What I really got started was with kids and doing balloon animals and magic tricks and just doing shows for the kids.
But did you come to this because it was so close or because of the content?
I came because I was told about the show about 2 weeks ago on a sailing race that I'm part of the crew on, and one of the owners of a magic store here in Baltimore told me about it. And once I found out about it, I was like, absolutely. And then, of course, he also knows that I've been wanting to meet Jeff McBride for years.
Right.
And I'd love to go take his magician's master class out in Vegas, but I haven't had the luxury of time to be able to go do it. So when he told me that he was headlining here and that the show was here, I was like, well, there's a day off and a weekend where I'm going to be, well, in Baltimore.
Well, worth the time, yeah, and the decision over there. Gary, what about you?
So I've been following Pose and Vince for a couple years now, so it's sort of been on my radar, and it ended up being a perfect weekend for me. And Jeff McBride, you kidding me? Of course.
You consider yourself as kind of a bizarre guy?
I enjoy the storytelling aspect of it. I really do, and I'm just here to learn. Really, this is my first magic conference, so don't really know what to expect or what I'm going to learn, but I'm looking forward to it.
So it's your first magic conference as well. I mean, when we're saying that, I mean, like, of course, there have been magic conventions all over the world. I mean, we just recently had VISM up in Quebec, and of course, we had the IBM convention down in Atlanta. So there were things in this neck of the woods, if you will, as opposed to someplace over in California or wherever. But still, is your first. It's great. So you're going to be enjoying it. You're going to learn a lot.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and especially from Jeff. I can understand why you'd want to come and learn from him then as well. So aside, is there something specific that you're wanting to get from this convention to take home with you?
Really, I know individual tricks, but putting together a pattern of a show is something I've never really worked on, and how to string tricks together and the sort of psychological aspect of putting together a complete show, especially in the style that we're going to be working on here, is something I'm very interested in.
Yeah. Reed, same question.
Repeat the question.
Okay, of what it is that you're hoping to take away from this, that you want to learn or incorporate in your own show.
Well, frankly, that's pretty hard because
Don't know what to expect.
I don't know what to expect. This is my first conference. What I'm truly expecting is to get insight from folks that have been having years of experience and in this field. And frankly, it's not just what goes right, it's what goes wrong and how to go handle it and what they've done. I mean, if we hear all these different stories, I'm pretty sure that it'll actually help any kind of performance that I do in the future, or just, frankly, I also say, I don't know how this gets out there. Maybe you want to edit this out, but in the business world, I was telling Gary that the way that you do close-up magic is very akin to what you need for a lot of stuff that's in pre-sales and sales. The ability to be able to think on your feet, to be able to go do something when something goes wrong, be able to relate to people, to keep people's interest, to see if you're talking and they're starting to pass out, how do you get their attention? And it's just like plate juggling across the room. And so a lot of demonstrations and presentations, those skills that you learn doing magic tricks correlate over into the business world one-to-one and are very, very fundamental to the business. And so for me, learning more of that is key, not just for a hobby, but also for my business.
You have said so succinctly what sums up what I've been trying to say over the last 11 years on this podcast, specifically about how that these skills that we learn as magicians, as far as presentations, of how that can relate to the rest of your life. It's not just something that you can enjoy necessarily as a hobby, but it has carryover kinds of things specifically to not just your personal life, but to your business life then as well, specifically if you're a salesman, because you're trying to sell somebody with the conviction that not only you believe it, but they should believe it then as well. And that's exactly what we're doing with magic, is to get them to believe that the card you just put down was the card you said it was, even though whatever,
Absolutely, and I was just saying this earlier. I used to start my sales training to the solution consultants that used to work for me with like a forced magic trick. I mean, a forced card magic trick where I'd lay out 4 cards. I'd make them go pick it randomly and just as totally their choice, and they'd pick the king of spades. And I'd ask them how they felt about it, and they'd go, well, really pretty good until you kept asking me about this, And then I'd hit the button on my keyboard, and the king of spades would be the next PowerPoint slide. And I was like, see, you had no choice. It was always going to be the king of spades. Yeah. And I'd tell them, I was like, this is exactly what you need to do when you do proofs of concepts or you do demonstrations. You got to give the customer the illusion of control, but you cannot give them the wheel of the car, or they might drive off a cliff. They don't know what they're dealing with, right? They think they can go 100 miles an hour across the turns. You need to be there to steer them, but let them think they're driving, okay? And I'd lead them all with that. And even offered them to, if they wanted to take close-up magic lessons, the company would pay for it, just because of, as you're just saying, those core experiences, those things that you need to go do, just pull over into the business world. Exactly. And you can't even actually get training on that very easily. You get these training classes in the business. Frankly, you pass out quickly.
Especially after lunch.
I know, you don't even have to wait till lunch. I mean, I don't know if you can drink enough coffee to hear about Solution Selling 101. This is how we're going to do the paradigm. All that stuff just goes in one ear and out the other. You get a few key points, but it's not really applicable as much. They're like lined up for all those business things, they're just lined up for, hey, if I got these dominoes lined up, I can press this domino and it works. But how often are those dominoes lined up? What you need to be able to go do is like, oh, the first 2 fell. How do I get that third one to actually go topple over like I planned it?
Right.
Wait till one of your tricks fail in front of you. Well, you pull off one of your little tricks off to the side to make sure it looks like that was part of the trick. Was
called an out.
Yes.
Exactly. You have to have plenty of outs. You have to have a good background in magic to be able to pull those things out then. That's exactly right. There are several people who actually incorporate magic a little bit into their sales training kind of a thing, along the line of what you're saying, not only to keep them awake, but also to teach basic ideas and concepts that are hard to grasp. But if you then show them physically, oh, now I kind of get the idea. Same thing like with trade shows and working trade shows, that people will get the idea when you're tying this particular thing into their product or sales or service or whatever it is, kind of a thing.
Well, trade shows are basically like a Cupid doll that you pull out the string and you repeat the same stuff over and over and over and over again. They get very boring, so you do have to do stuff to actually get things a little bit more interesting.
Keep it fresh.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Yeah. Well, we could talk all day. I'm definitely not cutting that out. I mean, that's the core concept of really, again, what this podcast is all about. It has been over the years. Thank you, Reed. I appreciate that. Very very insightful. I'm glad. Hopefully, this won't be your last conference, because you'll start to get some things out of it. I know when they're talking about developing character and things like that, those are things that will mean something to you then as well, that you can learn from. And that might think, well, I'm going to go to another one of these conferences, because there are others that do these kinds of things. So enjoy.
Well, I'm looking forward to this one. I'm truly looking forward to this. This has been, like I said, the first time in 24 years I've gone to a conference where I want to go to every speaking event and every lecture.
Yeah.
And that hasn't happened. It's a refreshing experience for me.
Yeah. Got to soak that up. Gary, last word?
I'm just looking forward to I'm actually a school teacher myself, and I'm a beginner in magic. So I started a magic club at my high school. And we will teach the kids how to perform magic. We're sort of learning together. And you take that kid who maybe is sitting by himself in the cafeteria, teach him a trick, and before you know it, he's going to everybody he knows, everyone he sees performing that same trick over and over again, and he loves it. So I'm really looking to expand on that. And,
you can see introverts change to extroverts in kids who have confidence that they never had before.
Absolutely. It's a great skill to have, especially in today's day and age where people are more isolated, they're on their phones, they're not interacting one-on-one or with small groups. It's a great skill to have in social situations.
Yeah.
Does it help with them not wanting instant gratification? Because a lot of magic tricks, you have to do the postponed gratification of just, here's the trick in 5 seconds, or you can make it last a minute and a half or something, and a great experience as opposed to just that quick, instant pop.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we're going to work on today is the storytelling aspect of it. And yeah, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should or when should you do it. And also, practice. So we'll learn the trick 1 week. Like, okay, but, don't go showing us right away. Take a week, 2 weeks, practice it, then you'll know when it's ready. So definitely a little bit of self-discipline as opposed to the instant gratification, which is so common.
Have you thought about starting some sort of a magic after-school club?
Oh, that's what it is. We have it.
Okay.
We're one of the only schools I know of that has a actual magic club.
Mm-hmm. But you got a good point then, Reed, too. I don't mean to continue to expand this conversation, but the different roads we're going down are very interesting. As far as the short attention span that we all have nowadays, not necessarily just youth, and also the attention to our phones while we're out to eat for dinner or even at home across the dinner table oftentimes. It's hard to get everybody to set down their smart instruments and actually have a conversation. But moreover, we're used to news and everything where they're just sound bites and everything, and we want this quick and then move on. So it is an interesting question that you ask of whether that the kind of tricks that we should be doing, should they grab their attention, be fast, or be more like what we're learning here, and that is to have a presentation that people will invest their time in and remember a lot longer. What are your thoughts on that?
Depends on your audience, a.k.a. the age.
How much have been drinking?
Well, if they've been drinking, you can do a lot of magic. One of my favorite tricks was at a bar when I was first learning how to do it. I was doing some card tricks for a friend trying to perfect it. And he picked the Queen of Spades like 3 times in a row just by random. And I took a bow for it. And for
Thank you, good night. I'm done here.
And for years he drove him nuts going, I don't know how you did it. And finally I just said, look, that was just pure random. But with the kids, what I found was, you got to do something really quick to get their attention. Once you got their attention, then you can start spreading out. But if you don't get their attention, they're not going to give you a 2-minute layup. You've got to get it immediately.
But it's not just with children. Whenever I'm working cocktail parties or working at a restaurant or something, when you're walking up to a table or a group of people in a social situation with adults, men or women, doesn't really matter, they're involved in another conversation. For them to pay attention to whatever little trick you're going to show them, it has to be quick. I mean, like Hundy 500 or something, changing ones to hundreds, boom, what just happened? Then you can go into something after you've gotten their attention, I think, then they will listen to what you have to say for it. Could be a longer story.
Well, I did say before that I've been subjected to a lot of business training on sales that didn't really correlate to what my job was since I was the technical side. So I've actually sat down to the people that do cold calling in business sites. And one of the things they said, however, was you got 5 seconds to get 10 seconds. You got 10 seconds to get 20 seconds, and you got 20 seconds to get a minute. Then after a minute, you can start having longer conversations. Wow. But you have to be able to quickly get to the attention and the points. It's exactly what you're talking about, and this also corresponds to what I'm saying, is that there's a direct correspondence to how you do magic in these shows to how do you do stuff in the business world.
Wow. Exactly right. Well, listeners, I'm sure you can tell we could probably go on for another hour, and some of you might be writing in saying, talk to that guy some more. But we're going to end up now because we're going to be talking some more later with some other guests, some of the registrants, some of the talent and organizers here at the convention. So there's more to come. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it, Reed. Thank you.
Thank you.
What is your last name, Reed? It's what?
Owens.
Owens. And Gary, your last name?
Gary Braham.
How do you spell that?
Braham.
There we go. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. So for the Magic Word Podcast, this is Scotty out. This afternoon we've had a couple of really great workshops. I can't really call them lectures, although in a way they were, and they weren't really workshops. Well, I don't know what to call these things. One was with Kenton Nepper, and the other one was Jeff McBride, and who I have with me right now is Vlad. Hey there, Vlad.
Greetings. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you very much. And you are going to be actually one of the presenters tomorrow, is that right?
I'm going to be one of the performers for the gala show, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you call that this afternoon? Would you call them a lecture or a workshop? I mean, workshops, I think, when you have hands-on and they're teaching you something. But the stuff that these guys were talking about, they were teaching, was fantastic. It was important stuff.
I think they were sort of more like fireside chats.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Which we were listening to them. It wasn't an interactive thing where they were taking questions. It was something that was structured without them actually having notes or something they were going to.
They shared their philosophies and shared moments and things that were pointers for us to look out for as we, go down the magical journey, and things to look out for, things to work on, and points of things that we probably didn't even think about.
Right.
So.
From Kenton Nepper's presentation, what was your biggest takeaway from that?
Interaction and making sure that there's a connection in your performance.
Right. That's kind of what I was getting out of that also. From the standpoint, he was talking about listening to the audience and being in the moment and being able to, I guess, react to whichever way they're going to be going. You can still have the structure, but basically to go to where you need to go.
Yeah, you sort of need to have that part where people walk away and feel that they've shared something, or in their busy day, they've taken time out of their schedule to spend time with you, and that it was well received and worthwhile for them to be with you.
Right, right. I also liked then, there's so many different things that Jeff had talked about, and of course you're a student of Jeff. You go back to mystery school. When was that for you first started with, for 82 or 85, or when was that?
I think it was 89 or 90 was the first one, so I've known Jeff for 37 years. So.
Yeah, wow. So you've seen him go through a lot of stuff, and you've been a facilitator also at school.
Yeah.
And what is it that you teach? When
I would talk about theater and character development and things like, persona, and making sure you eliminate red flags from your things, that if you're going to perform at a Renaissance fair and be Merlin, that you probably shouldn't use plastic props.
Oh, good point.
It's like things to think about, that it's like, well, Merlin wouldn't have plastic. So it's like...
Exactly right. Yeah, and the development of the character is important because, as I said, this is Vlad, and Vlad has his own character in which you portray a vampire. Who is, how long has Vlad been alive?
We stopped counting after the first 100 or so years, but I was born in 1431, so...
Okay, well, there you go. Do the math. From there. In which country?
Which country?
Where were you born?
Do I have residency in?
Okay.
I can't tell you where all the soil is.
Where all the bodies are buried, so to speak?
Sort of I still want to have a coffin to go to, but...
One of the things that Jeff said I thought had resonance for me, and that is not to step on your applause. I thought that was great. When he was taking some applause, he started to walk over and segue to the next thing, and then he stopped, and he took the applause, and then later said, that's something that too many of us do, myself included, when I started thinking about it, is it's a good time to go and pick up your next prop when you have a little bit of time while people are applauding. But he said, go ahead.
Appreciate the moment. Because it's sort of, we all get so wrapped up into what's on our set list, and we're thinking what needs to happen next, and it's like you're giving out the presentation, so it's like the reward or the return on your interest is the applause,
right?
So it's sort of like if you dismiss that, you're sort of like slightly insulting the audience a little bit, because you're sort of like, it doesn't matter.
Too many beginning comedians, I think, do the same thing. And I'm not just referring to comedians, but also anyone who's a performer, magicians included, step on our own laughs whenever the audience is laughing at something we've done, and we don't let that play out. Or the applause, we don't let that play out before we start into the next joke or the next thing.
Yeah, just pause. And just sort of like appreciate that they enjoyed what you just presented.
Yeah.
It's like, don't run when they're not chasing you.
Yeah, enjoy it and let them give you what you've earned.
Yeah.
Then I guess as well.
Yeah.
Both really great presentations, and that's the kind of thing I really am enjoying. Of course, the convention just started. This is the first full day of it, and tonight we got Meadow Perry doing, which is a little bit unusual at this kind of a convention. I say unusual because most of the things are like with you, where it's something that's going to be more bizarre in nature or mystical or mentalism, or unless she has mentalism bubbles.
We tried to open it up a little bit, where it wasn't just traditional bizarre, where it was more theatrical magic in with the storytelling. And I think we need to acknowledge the contribution that a lot of women are making to the presentation of theatrical magic.
True.
So, she's come up with an entire style, like performing with these bubbles, and it's just a thing of beauty in itself. So it's like sort of like for us to be able to like watch the story unfold of like her motion with the bubbles and things, it's more theatrical. So it's just sort of like, originally Bizarre Magic was storytelling magic. It wasn't just creepy, there were different cultures, legends, lore, things like that. So, I think we're going back to like broadening the explanation a little bit instead of just being old guys doing creepy magic. It's like,
Good point. Because we'll eventually die off, and if we don't recognize and encourage that those younger people are doing whatever they're doing, it'll die with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. And so tonight we still have, after Meadow Perry, I think at 9 o'clock, then it's going to be, who is it that's giving a lecture?
Joseph Daniels, I think.
Joseph Daniels, I believe, is doing his. And then after that, the Black Cat Cafe will open, which is explain what the Black Cat is.
We wanted a sort of a social atmosphere where people could go there and just be able to like talk amongst themselves and spend time, because so much of the conference convention thing is like running from point A to point B and trying to hit the dealer room and, going to the next like talk and trying to fit lunch in and everything. So we wanted downtime where there could just be all of us in one room and just be able to like chat and spend time like interacting.
Right. So. I know that you're one of the organizers with this then as well. And so let me ask how you handpicked the dealers also, because they've got some phenomenal stuff.
Thankfully, most of the people that are dealers are, I think all of them are friends. And they just have sort of like, we've come in contact with them through other conferences, and it's sort of like we're doing this, and most of them go, hey, can I be a so we haven't had to like acquire them. They've come to us and wanted to be part of it. And a lot of times, it's the people that are doing the actual vending, are part of the actual convention presenters. So like Paul Prater.
Yeah, this is a relatively small convention with about 60, maybe 70 people who are here, and we have, 9 dealers, I guess?
Yeah.
So that's an adequate number for as small of a convention that it is, and they have a variety of prices from expensive to cheap of the different kinds of things they have. And one of the things I've noticed with mentalism conventions in particular, we have gone more toward, or mental products, I should say, going more towards digital and electronic stuff. And there are a few things like that are available here as well, but most of them are pretty organic.
I think because there are like things that are useful as there are electronics, like the things that Chris Sipes has,
right?
Or the things that Christopher Taylor used to produce. But there are associated things that you have to worry about sometimes with the electronic things.
Right.
Especially now, if you don't want to like perform locally, if you want to travel with these, you have to worry about what kind of batteries is this thing using? Is it going to be able to go on an airline? Am I going to be stopped by the TSA, because they don't understand what it is and want to rip it apart? All these things. And how do I charge this before the show? And how do I make sure that it's going to work before the show? I had I use it as an example. I had back in the day, an Outlaw Effects, one of the Ouija boards.
Oh, yeah.
And the Ouija board took 16 batteries. And I'm like, sort of like, it's one of those like, and for my safety and peace of mind as a performer, every time I performed it, I ripped the batteries out, threw them away, and put fresh ones in just to make sure that it worked.
It has to be pretty expensive.
Yeah, and it's like you're changing 16 batteries out, and you're using, they don't require like the cheap batteries. You had to use the like high energy batteries. So, that's all things that you have to. And if you use electronic props, probably a good idea that you plan to have an out just in case.
When, not if. It happens.
And it was like, I think Ice McDonald was one of the ones that used to say, how many people have an out? And then he would go, and how many people have ever actually practiced their out?
That's a good point, too. You should practice the out. That's a very good point, because something will happen, and if you haven't done that, then, you go say, well, I was going to go to that, but actually that's not going to work now.
I don't remember how I did that.
Exactly. Well, it's been a great first day of kicking this whole thing off with some great presentations, and we're going to have some more stuff tomorrow I'm looking forward to.
It should be a great time.
So as an organizer, congratulations. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you putting this together for those of us who are enjoying it. And those who are listening to this, why aren't you here? This is going to be another great convention coming up next year. You're going to be holding it at the same place, I assume, here at Lord Baltimore again?
We're going to shoot for the same place. We probably will adjust the time. I think we're going to probably be like a week or two later in the month, but it'll be in the thankfully, we like this haunted hotel. So
yeah, and they like you.
Yeah.
So it seems. So for the Magic Word Podcast, that was Vlad. This is Scotty out. We just finished with Meadow Perry performing her fantastic bubble act, and so we say hello. Hello, Meadow.
Hello, Scott. How are you?
I'm nothing less than fantastic, and so is your show. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
And I was asking Vlad a little bit earlier about this, about what is a bubble person doing in this kind of a bizarre convention.
Uh-huh.
So
yeah.
You were saying that, well, the bubbles are kind of creating something kind of different and mysterious.
Well, bubbles are like ghostly apparitions.
That's it.
They barely exist. They're nanometers thin, so I think they belong. But I think it's more importantly they kind of are acting as a cleanse the palate from all the spooky things.
That's exactly a very good way to put it.
Yeah.
And so you have been performing really around the country. I mean, you were doing this. I saw you on many Zoom shows. I think you were doing Monday Night Magic also. Is that right? A few others, or did you do those Zoom shows?
I don't think I did. I do. Yes, maybe. I don't remember.
So.
I've done so many Zoom shows over the course of the pandemic, but like all over the country, different. I did the Magic Castle virtual show, and it's been a great experience doing the virtual shows, and it's been kind of a sandbox for my live show.
And so, when did you start back up with the live shows again? I mean, how close after? Let's say it was August of last year, I think things started picking up, because the first convention I went to was Abbott's in August of 2021, and so here we are a year later. So when did you start getting out?
Well, with the bubbles, I do the giant bubbles outside, so I was really fortunate through the pandemic to be able to use that as a performance medium and kind of advertise this open air entertainment that could be socially distanced and everything like that, and that went over really well. But things really did start picking up for me at the end of last summer for live shows indoors. And there's still some, especially for kids shows, that they'd rather do them outside.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, so there's some challenges doing a bubble show outside, but I figured out some of the tricks to make it happen.
I was talking to David Kay, and he was saying about how post-COVID, that I guess we're kind of in, slowly, that he is making more money now than he was then before, because people had pent-up money and the kids wanted birthday parties and they're willing to spend it.
That's so true. People are really hungry for entertainment. And I went from being a daycare teacher pre-pandemic and doing this on the weekends to now it's my full-time gig.
Full-time?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You decided, hey, this is where I want to be and what I want to do.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%, and I'm loving it.
Where's the most exciting place you have performed?
Oh, gosh. I would say the taping for the Masters of Illusion.
That's fun. Good seeing you there. I thought you did a great job. Bang up.
It was a beautiful stage, beautiful set. So that was probably the most fun. Also, it was my first time being out in Hollywood, and then I made a trip out to Vegas. But that's definitely been one of the most exciting times, but also the IBM convention just this past July was pretty exciting.
Yep, in Atlanta. That's what I saw you there as well. That's why I was saying this is the third time I've seen you here this year so far. As for the Masters of Illusion, that's something that listeners are going to get to hear later. I had recorded this some time ago. When was that? Was that February?
Yes.
Or, I guess it was.
Yes, it was February.
And the reason I've been holding on to that is because it's season 9, and they're into season 8 right now, and I wanted to wait until closer to Christmas because they're going to be doing a Christmas special that was recorded for season 9, and that'll be next year, then the beginning. And I want to give people behind the scenes to kind of give them a feel of what it's like. Because what was that for you, by the way?
It was super exciting. It was my first TV appearance, so it was definitely a learning experience with kind of the crew and how they operate there. It's kind of a lot of waiting until it's your turn to go. But they were phenomenal. The whole crew there, they took really special care to make sure all the needs were met and everything was running smoothly. And it was they just made me feel right at home, and it was great. I feel like the set went so well.
It did,
and
things didn't pop at the wrong time.
Yeah, things didn't pop at the wrong time. And so I'm really excited to see what it looks like because I haven't seen it yet.
Did you do a special, a Christmas special? Did you have something?
I did do a piece for it, but I don't know if they'll use it. So
okay.
yeah.
They record a lot of stuff, and who knows what hits the floor.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
And so that was, I'm sure, pretty exciting. And then you just went to Vegas just to kind of hang out since you were so close to LA, I guess.
Yep, I went to Vegas to hang out. I got to meet Jeff McBride, who's my mentor at the Magic and Mystery School. And now it's funny because now subsequently I've met him a few times since February. But yeah.
And so have you ever taken his class or gone to the school actually?
Not in person. I've done it virtually, which was really great, which I feel like doing all the virtual things, but especially doing the Magic and Meaning conference, it kind of opened some doors for me because I made some really long-lasting friendships in the Magic community there.
I see. I was going to say, I don't understand as far as that, as far as what you would be learning in that, because I can't imagine Jeff teaching you bubbles or anything, but and as far as the presentation, do you have messages that you present sometimes to corporations? Or have you...
I do. I do kind of relate things with bubbles and their impermanence. But it was really fun in the Magic and Meaning conference. They did really push kind of my boundaries on what I'm learning in magic. They challenged us to create a piece of magic and make it fit our show. And so one of the things was a rope routine, which what do ropes have to do with bubbles? But I came up with a whole routine about a chemist from 1880, Agnes Pockels, who was working with surface tension, and someone took her work. So I made this kind of nevertheless she persisted piece with rope, and the rope is never ending, and it was a really great piece.
Which reminds me, when you were in Las Vegas, did you happen to go by and visit with the gentleman whose name escapes me for a moment, who is the photographer who used to be the bubble guy?
Oh,
Faverty.
Faverty. I didn't, but I had a delightful phone conversation with him, but the timing, it was so tight. I was only there for a couple of days, so I didn't get a chance to. But he definitely knows how to photograph bubbles.
Right.
So
that's why I thought it would have been perfect. First of all, he's a bubble guy. Number two, he's a photographer. I mean, and you were there. It's
100%.
like, that would have been perfect.
The next time I go out there, yes.
Got to make an appointment.
Yes, absolutely.
He's the guy. He'll make you look even more gorgeous than you are, which I don't know how that'd be possible. But
thanks.
And also the bubbles and everything. There's so many cool pictures. As you say, he knows how to photograph and light it and everything.
Yeah,
so.
that's the important thing. And I think that's why my virtual show hit so well, because I had the lighting really dialed in. And so you can get this real close up and beautiful kind of image of the bubbles.
Did you learn that yourself? Or?
I did. It was a lot of trial and error. And I actually have a really funny video of the first time I used a really high def camera, and I was doing my bubble wall, and it was so shocking to see all the colors swirl on the camera to see reflected what I actually see in person.
Yeah.
And it was so exciting. Just, oh my gosh. So, yeah.
How fun. Well, listen, I appreciate it, Meadow, very much for spending a little bit of time and also for sharing this with the group over here. I think it's just kind of heightened the convention a little bit and given us a little bit more class with you being here.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Scott, so much.
Thank you. So for the Magic Word Podcast, that was Meadow Perry. Scotty out.